Guy's sitting in the car and he kind of like glances his head and then double takes back and there's an adult movie being filmed in a car. I've now spent a lot more time in Germany since recording the last culture shock video that I've done, and today we're going to be discussing another 10 somewhat culture shock and or differences between back home in Scotland and over here in Germany. We are going to be starting off with one of probably the most talked about, and that would be the saunas. Now, back home in Scotland, I'd never really been to many saunas, but everybody was like at least wearing kind of a bikini or like bathing shorts or something like that. Whereas over here in Germany, everyone is naked. Everybody. And it makes sense, having watched other content creators and people who have experienced this kind of culture shock, if we call it that. It's the whole thing of hygiene, which, now that that's been explained to me, makes perfect sense. If you're like wearing, say, I'm wearing like shorts in a sauna, I'm gonna be sweating, and the material is gonna like absorb the sweat and it'll build bacteria, and it's disgusting. So it makes perfect sense. But the first time I was in a German sauna was actually when my fiance and myself were traveling Hearts. We spent 48 hours in Hearts. Like, I don't know, is it this side or this side? I don't know. I'll pop a card up on there if you want to go watch that video. I experienced my first sauna in there, and the very first night there weren't too many people because we went quite late at night. The second spa we went to was more a swimming pool spa, but then the third night was the most extreme of them all. It was so busy, so busy. My partner and I were not too comfortable in saunas, but it was like, we'll experience it, it's a new thing, like, let's see how it goes. And we were just walking through, and one of the saunas was like, there was bodies touching almost, there was that many people, and it was quite like a visual image. Whoa, that's a lot of people. But what made it so intriguing was no one really cared that people were naked. I think definitely in the UK, America, those types of places, someone being naked is like over-sexualized, whereas we're all human. We all have a naked body. People just overthink things. That was definitely one of the big ones. Next up on the list is paying to pee. Now, I'm in two minds with this, because I feel that needing to pee and going to pee is somewhat of a human necessity. So therefore, it should be free out in public. Like, there should be public restrooms that are free to go to. However, I also agree that having people pay to pee kind of gives that instinctive, natural, like, you care about the place more, you look after it more. Also, it typically pays to have a member of staff there to keep the toilets clean as well. Like, I have come across disgusting toilets in Germany, even the paid ones. Just want to clarify as well, there are some free public toilets out there, but most of them I would say that I've experienced are paid. As I say, it makes sense. Someone there to clean it, you naturally will look after it a bit better, but at the same point, there are still some disgusting ones out there, even with a member of staff. The very first time I was out with my partner, I was like, oh, like, I gotta use the bathroom. She was like, oh, have you got like any coins on you? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you need to pay to pee. And I was like, huh? I was just so confused, because back in the UK, you don't really get that. In places like McDonald's, you typically have to buy something to use the restroom. Cool, that makes sense, because that's like a private establishment. But like, out and about, there are just like loads of free public toilets. There's even basically outdoor urinals kind of thing. You typically see them at like festivals and such, but like just in the street, there'll be like outdoor urinals. Because I first actually seen that from Chris Broad, who from abroad in Japan. But yeah, it was the first seen that, and I was like, all right, fair enough. And then when I was down in London myself, I've seen a couple of them kicking about. I was like, oh, that is interesting. They are disgusting, but useful. Third on my list is cash. Cash is king. I didn't realise how many establishments still only take cash. Now, over on the west side of Germany, it's not too bad. Nowadays, I'd say most places do take card, at the very least. But I've noticed the further east you go, the more likely you're going to run into an establishment needing, like, only taking cash, basically. Whether that's because of the development over Germany over the last, like, few years, I say few years, good wee while. That's probably got a part to play, but it's just, if you're coming to Germany, always have some cash on you, just in case. As I say, if you're in the big cities, you should be fine. But a lot of the kind of smaller establishments, typically bakeries, and as I say, the further east you go, the more likelihood that you'll need cash and you will not be allowed to use your card. Like, it's not that you're not allowed to, it's just they don't have the facility for you to use your card. That's a lesson that I've been learning. I've been getting a lot better with having cash on me. And again, just to go back to the last point of paying to be, also having some coins on me. Like, just that whole culture of keeping cash alive, which is a good thing, but I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole different argument. Number 4, now I've not experienced this yet myself. However, my partner has told me that you have to like buy your kitchen even when you've rented a place out. If you rent a place out, it doesn't come with a kitchen, which sounds mental to me because like in the UK, if you're renting a place, it comes with all like the basic necessities like a toilet, like a sink, a bath or shower, and like a kitchen. It might not necessarily come with a cooker and dryer, like washing machine, dryer, but it will have like a sink at the very least, whereas apparently like none of that exists. I don't get it. As I say, I've not yet experienced it myself, but when I was told about it, I was quite shocked. Fifth on my list is a very strange one. When I've been researching for different videos and like going places, traveling, I've noticed a trend that German websites aren't all that. Don't get me wrong, there are some beautiful websites out there. I will try and pop up some examples on screen, but some of them just look so ugly. Like they're from like the 90s. They've just not been updated since like 1995. There was one, I'll hopefully be able to find it to show you guys, but there was one website and it was just bright orange. In this day and age, 2024, you've got places like Squarespace, WordPress. No, this is not going on to be like, here's the sponsor for this video. None of that. You've got all these websites like Squarespace that you can just click a few buttons and the website is built for you basically. So I don't understand why there's still quite a few German websites that look like they're from 1995. Again, it's probably not just Germany. There's bound to be loads of other places in the world. I don't know if I'll call that a culture shock, but it's something I've noticed, that's for sure. If you've been subscribed to the channel for a wee bit, you may have seen that my partner and I done a couple reactions to German advert compilations, and they are wild. German adverts do not care, and I love it. They're hilarious, they're clever. One of the first ones we watched was an advert for like a speaker system, I think it was, and they had like an opera, a bunch of opera singers, and then when the person was like adjusting, like the opera singers would move and stuff. It was really funny. But then onto the more extreme German adverts that I've seen, there was a man sitting in a car. Again, I'll try and link a card up to both videos if you want to go watch my reaction to them. Guy sitting in the car and he kind of like glances his head and then double takes back, and there's an adult movie being filmed in a car. And I'm like, how does this connect to the advert? To be honest, I don't even remember what the advert was about. I just remember like it being an advert and there was an adult film being filmed in another, well, it was a van. And literally the next advert, I know this was a compilation, so whoever built it done it deliberately. But then the next advert was like 2 cartoon-ish kind of drawings, people having intercourse over the top of a table. A woman's walked in and she was like, oh my god, and fainted. It turns out it was an advert for a cinema. And I'm like it made sense, like, oh, go to the cinema so you won't be bored and end up doing this. But it's just, that was on TV? Like, that blew my mind. It was insane. Like, I've seen adverts that have been banned before. Typically the Skittles advert, if you know, you know. But it's just like, that was actually on German TV. I don't know when it was on German TV, but the fact that it was is hilarious. Next on my list is the fact that Mercedes is a lot more common around Germany. Now, over in the UK, Scotland, Mercedes is quite the premium brand. Like, you don't see them very often. You see them more often than the likes of Ferraris and Lamborghinis, but a Mercedes, it shows wealth, it shows status, whatever you want to call it. But over here in Germany, Mercedes is so common, and I understand it's a German brand, but to the point where like your everyday taxis are Mercedes, you've got trucks, Mercedes, and it's just like, whoa, that's so different from the UK. The fact that you just see them everywhere, whereas in the UK you don't. I live in Edinburgh myself, so I do see probably more than people who live in, say, maybe a bit more of a rural area. With it being a big city, typically more wealth in that city. So when I go uptown, you do see more kind of thing, but it's not like every second car. So coming over here to Germany and then seeing like taxis, trucks, being Mercedes was quite the shock. I didn't realise how common they would be over here. 8th on this list is one of my favourite, and that is German censorship and swearing. Swearing is exactly how I perceive it. That's how the Germans seem to treat swearing. A swear word is only a swear word if used in an offensive context. Whereas if it's a song, I am mainly talking about the radio here. If there's a song playing on the radio and it uses a swear word, in the UK, it gets out. Over here in Germany, it does not. And the way that I perceive that, as I was saying, is it's in a song, it's just another word. It is not a swear word because the context of it is it's non-offensive typically. The biggest giggle moment, if we can call it that I had on our summer holiday this year when we were going to Switzerland. We've ended up in a McDonald's, still in Germany, just to clarify that, in McDonald's, and Eminem came on the radio with his then recently released track Houdini, and which, if you know Eminem, he swears a lot. And it's on the radio, and I'm like, Eminem and McDonald's? What? Like, there's kids about. And then we're just kind of like vibing away, like, we enjoy the song. And then, like, the swearing just doesn't get censored. I'm like, what? Huh? Eminem's just said that. There's kids about, like, but again, it's just, it's so normalized. Swearing isn't, or at least from what I'm picking up, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but swearing is not swearing unless it's done in an offensive way. 9th on my list would be roundabouts. Now, it wasn't something I've initially noticed myself. It wasn't until it was pointed out by a couple of my friends and then also my mother when they came over to Germany for the first time to meet family and stuff. And they were like, the roundabouts are back to front. That's a very good point, because back home in the UK, I don't really, like, I can't drive. In Edinburgh, you don't need to drive. The public transport's great. If anything, I'm more used to driving, or at least being in a car over here in Germany. So the fact that like the roundabout was back to front didn't really cross my mind. But as soon as it was pointed out to me, I was mind blown. Wait, that's so true. Yeah, I know it's a small thing, and I'll probably not call that a culture shock, just like a difference that shocked me. And finally, last on my list is the German license plates. Again, don't know if you want to call it a culture shock, but a big difference from that over in the UK. Over in the UK, you can get pretty much free reign on your license plate. You can get like your name written on it. I know there are certain rules, like you need like X amount of numbers, X amount of letters, all that kind of jazz. But over here in Germany, you can tell where a car is from based on its license plate. Because between the first 1 and 3 letters on the license plate will denote the city that car is from. For instance, Dortmund would be DO. After that, you've got typically the Bundesland that the area is from. I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. And then after that, you need to have 2 more letters and then a minimum of 1 number, but up to 4. For instance, I could get my Twitch username on a German license plate. So you could have, like, if it was in Dortmund, you could have DOCY93. That is a thing. Whenever we're driving along the Autobahn, we always play the game, find words or names on the license plates, and it keeps you amused. Will that run out? Like, will I get bored of it one day? I don't know. Probably not. I'm easily amused. But yeah, German license plate, wonderful thing. It's also like somewhat of if we can call it like a reverse culture shock. When I go back to the UK, especially after spending a long time here, the license plates look weird. Like, they don't look normal to me because I don't see a lot of license plates I don't typically go out all that much, I'll be honest. Whereas over here in Germany, we're out in the car fairly frequently, so you're seeing a lot of license plates. So it's that kind of reverse culture shock. Let me know if I should do a reverse culture shock video as well in the comments. If you would like to see that, like, is there anything that I find odd when I go back, like the license plates? That was another 10 culture shock differences that I've noticed with spending more time over here in Germany. Let me know if you have experienced any of these, or if you find any of these weird, or if you just disagree with some of these, because I know in the last video that I done, there was some disagreements, which is totally fine. But if you've not actually watched that video, make sure to click up here and give that a shot. Leave me a comment. Tell me that you came for this video. I'll see you in the next one.